I think I'm pretty outspoken, and that's not probably a good thing in terms of a politician, but it's a good thing if you ever got elected, you can really do a job.
That's Donald Trump, Eric Trump's father and also the 45th President of the United States. Long before Donald enjoyed the sweet taste of gold, he preferred the silver spoon he was born with. We all know that past behavior is the greatest indicator of future success. With that in mind, let's take a look. Who really is Donald Trump? I'm Julianne Moore, and this is the story of the COVID patient in charge of America's nuclear arsenal. Donald John Trump made an excellent career move in 1946, being born to a very wealthy family in Queens, New York. He grew up in a 23-room, 9-bathroom, white-columned mansion in an exclusive, affluent, nearly all-white neighborhood. Friends who came over would be greeted by the maid, who would offer a platter of finger sandwiches with the crust cut off. It wouldn't take long for Donald to reject it all. His father, Fred, the son of German immigrant Frederick Drumpf, was a super wealthy New York real estate mogul. The tough and hard-driving Fred Trump achieved multimillionaire status by becoming one of the largest recipients of cheap U.S. government-backed building loans in the 1940s. Donald's mother, Mary, was a poor immigrant from Scotland. The two met at a party in Queens and married in 1936. They had 5 children, Donald being the second youngest of the bunch. When Donald was 2.5 years old, his mother became seriously ill, effectively abandoning him during a critical time in his childhood development. Thanks to a land trust set up by his father, Donald was literally a landlord at 3 years old, and he was making the equivalent today of $200,000 annually from his dad's empire, which is more than most 3-year-olds make. By the time he was 8 years old, he was a millionaire, meaning he could pay the babysitter himself. Shortly after Donald turned 13, the family sent him upstate to a military academy. It would be the closest he'd get to serving in the military. By the time he was 17, his father gave him part ownership of a 52-unit apartment building, and then he was off to college. He started at Fordham University and then 2 years in, transferred to the elite Wharton School undergrad program at the University of Pennsylvania. According to Donald's niece Mary, Donald allegedly paid someone to take the SAT on his behalf, achieving a high yet fraudulent score which he used to gain admittance to Wharton. At the time, Donald's brother Fred Jr. had a buddy named James Nolan who worked in the admissions office at UPenn. Fred Jr. asked Nolan to interview Donald as a candidate for admission. Years later, in an interview, Nolan recalled the encounter. "I certainly was not struck by any sense that I'm sitting before a genius." Yet it appears Donnie was accepted. UPenn awarded him a BS on May 20th, 1968. Trump claimed the school was the hardest to get into, the best school in the world. It's unclear how Donald performed at the school because Trump's attorney, Michael Cohen, was allegedly ordered to hide his boss's school transcripts. So it's safe to say he's probably super proud of them.
I'm talking about a man who declares himself brilliant, but directed me to threaten his high school, his colleges, and the college board to never release his grades or SAT scores.
While in college, Trump fought really hard to avoid the Vietnam War. He obtained 4 student draft deferments, even though he was fit and eligible for military service. After graduating from UPenn, he was eligible for the draft again. This time, he received a medical deferment for alleged bone spurs.
Numerous deferments because of college, and I had a foot thing, and I had deferment for that.
In 1971, at the tender age of 25, Trump was named president of his father's real estate company. He renamed it the Trump Organization. It was around this time he received a super tiny sum of not much money at all.
My father gave me a small loan of $1 million.
All in all, Donald received the equivalent today of $413 million from his dad's real estate empire. After fattening his wallet, he was seemingly looking to settle down. In 1977, Donald married Czech model Ivana Zelenchkova. They had 3 children together, Don Jr., Ivanka, and Eric.
We get along very well, and there's not a lot of disagreement because ultimately Ivana does exactly as I tell her to do.
While his marriage was going extremely well, his new gig as president of the real estate company wasn't. He began making headlines for all the wrong reasons. The front page of the October 16, 1973 New York Times read, "Major landlord accused of anti-black bias in city." Of Donald's 14,000 apartments in 39 different buildings, the tenants were predominantly white. The Department of Justice charged Donald and his father with discriminating against black people in apartment rentals, violating the Fair Housing Act of 1968. So who tipped the DOJ off? Black activists would apply for an advertised vacancy in a Trump building only to be told nothing was available. Then their white counterparts tried the same thing, and they were met with open arms and vacancies. An application filed by a black apartment seeker would be marked by a Trump employee as C for colored. A former Trump rental agent spoke to NBC about how he was ordered to handle a situation if a black person applied.
Fred Trump came into my office with his son Donald at his side. I asked him what I should do with the application of Miss Brown. He told me at that time to take the application and put it in the desk drawer, as he does not rent to people of color, utilizing the N-word. And Donald shook his head, agreeing with his father.
Caught, racist and red-handed, they went on the attack. Donald, along with Roy Cohn, famed McCarthyist lawyer and power broker, countersued the Department of Justice for $100 million in damages. But this countersuit was tossed out by the judge. In 1975, Donald and his father settled the original case. They were ordered to study the Fair Housing Act and not to discriminate at their properties in the future. Additionally, they were ordered to work with the New York Urban League to identify new tenants.
If I was starting off today, I would love to be a well-educated black because I really believe they do have an actual advantage today.
After putting his racist tendencies to rest definitely forever, business was booming. Donald was on the rise, and so were his buildings. Throughout the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, it seems Trump smeared his name in gold plating wherever he could. Casinos, steaks, residential high-rises, vodka bottles, water bottles, board games, hotels, and golf courses all donned the Trump name. But so did the bankruptcy papers. Trump's companies filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy 6 times. By 1990, they owed $4 billion to more than 70 banks. He refused to pay millions of dollars to working people, like contractors and other businesses, in the process, which is probably why he made a cameo in Home Alone 2. So, is Trump really as rich as he claims he is? From 1985 to 1994, Donald Trump lost at least $1.2 billion.
I remember once my father and I were walking down Fifth Avenue, and there was a homeless person sitting right outside of Trump Tower. And I think I was probably maybe 9, 10, something like this. It was around the same time as the divorce. And I remember my father pointing to him and saying, you know, that guy has $8 billion more than me, because he was in such extreme debt at that point, you know?
He now claims to be a billionaire, but is he?
I'm really rich.
That sounds awesome. But how much is it?
How much are you worth right now as you're sitting right here?
Zero idea, David.
In April of 2020, after the coronavirus pandemic crippled the U.S., Forbes estimated that Trump's net worth collapsed a full $1 billion. It's unclear what Trump's actual net worth is. Due to a bombshell report by the New York Times, we do know, at least according to leaked tax returns, that Trump is $421 million in debt. According to the Times, Trump has not paid any income taxes at all in 10 of the previous 15 years, and, spoiler alert, the first year in the White House, he apparently only paid $750 in federal income taxes. That's $750, just like a 128 gig iPhone 11. Comparatively, his predecessor, President Barack Obama, paid about $1.8 million in taxes in his first year in office. It's as if he's lying to the public, seemingly conning them into thinking he's something bigger than he is, someone else entirely, like when he posed as his own publicist frequently throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s to brag about himself to the public.
He treated his wife well, and he will treat Mama well. And he's somebody that has a lot of options, and frankly, he gets called by everybody. He gets called by everybody in the book in terms of women.
And then he went on to use his name recognition for a brutal New York City case. In 1989, when 5 young Black and Latino teens were accused of beating and raping a woman in Central Park, Donald was the loudest voice in opposition of the young boys. Donald took out a full-page ad in 4 newspapers, including the New York Times, calling for the execution of the now innocent Central Park 5. In all caps, the ads read, "Bring back the death penalty. Bring back our police."
We don't know who did that crime. and the court's going to decide who did that crime. Were you prejudging those arrested?
No, I'm not prejudging at all. I'm not in this particular case. I'm saying if they're found guilty, if the woman died, which she hopefully will not be dying, but if the woman died, I think they should be executed. I think you should have the death penalty.
Donald, to this day, has refused to apologize for his calls to execute the innocent teenagers. In 1992, Donald and Ivana divorced after he cheated on her with Marla Maples, who he later married in 1993. Donald and Ivana settled for $14 million, a deal she took because her team worried Donald was going bankrupt. That same year, Maples gave birth to Donald's second and final daughter, Tiffany Trump.
She's really a beautiful baby, and she's got Marla's legs. We don't know whether or not she's got this part yet, but time will tell.
In the aftermath of the divorce, Ivana claimed, under oath, Donald raped her. The incident, which was detailed in Ivana's deposition, was confirmed by two of her friends. Later, Ivana walked back her claim without denying it, saying she didn't mean that Trump raped her in a literal or criminal sense. This wouldn't be Donald's last rape accusation. In the mid-90s, E. Jean Carroll, a writer and former Miss Cheerleader USA, claimed Donald raped her in a department store dressing room. Donald responded to the allegation by saying, "She's not my type," which led many people to believe there is a type of woman he would rape. Over the next decades, Donald was accused of rape, sexual assault, and sexual harassment by at least 26 women.
You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just like, I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the
From 1996 to 2015, Trump owned the Miss Universe franchise, where his locker room behavior continued. He and Howard Stern chopped it up about predatory behavior frequently.
Some of these foreign girls, you know, Mr. Trump, in my country, we say hello with vagina. And
well, you could also say, as the owner of the pageant, it's your obligation to do that.
So you have done that. Now,
I'll tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, you know, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it.
Donald also seemed to agree with Stern that his own daughter was, well, I'll let him say it.
My daughter is beautiful, Ivanka.
By the way, your daughter.
She's beautiful.
Can I say this? A piece of ass.
Yeah.
It wasn't the first time he seemingly hit on his own daughter.
Although she does have a very nice figure. I've said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know.
Stop it! Oh, it's so weird. Stop. You know what? You are sick.
All this while seemingly being good friends with now deceased convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, who, according to one report, was a member of Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort until October of 2007.
Footage from 1992 found in the NBC archives shows the future president welcoming Jeffrey Epstein to his Mar-a-Lago estate. The get-together more than a decade before Epstein pleaded guilty to prostitution charges in Florida.
In 1999, Donald ran for president at his good friend Roger Stone's request. He ran on quite the ticket, too.
You have a vice presidential candidate in mind?
Well, I really haven't gotten quite there yet.
It's just
Oprah. I love Oprah. Oprah would always be my first choice.
Stone helped pave the way for a George W. Bush presidency by imploding an entire party. Stone urged Pat Buchanan to run as a Reform Party candidate, and then enlisted Donald to join the race and sabotage Buchanan's chances to ensure that a third-party candidate wouldn't cost Bush the election.
Well, Mr. Trump has said he'll make a decision at the end of February. He has formed a presidential exploratory committee. He has changed his registration to the Independence Party of New York, which is the Reform Party affiliate.
Donald eventually dropped out. Around the time of his run, his marriage was crumbling. Maples and Donald officially divorced in 1999. But he was never really single. A year earlier, in 1998, Donald met Slovenian model Melania Naus at a party. They married a few years later.
We were both at the same party, and that's how we met. He came to me.
Right away?
I went crazy. I said, I was actually supposed to meet somebody else.
In 2004, Donald lost 2 Teen Choice Awards to Ashton Kutcher. Around the same time he began hosting the TV show The Apprentice, he launched Trump University, but it was only in operation for 5 years because, as NBC notes, students alleged the university used false advertising and high-pressure sales techniques to lure them to free investor workshops at which they were sold expensive seminars and told they would be mentored by real estate gurus. leading to the loss of thousands of dollars in tuition.
At Trump University, we teach success. That's what it's all about, success. It's going to happen to you.
According to the sworn testimony by former Trump University employees, many instructors and mentors had no experience buying or selling real estate. It's reported one instructor was a salesman for Lowe's and another a manager for Buffalo Wild Wings. A former member of Trump's sales staff said the university was a joke. It was a facade, a total lie, and that it was just selling false hopes and lies. Trump faced a class action lawsuit and was ordered to pay $25 million. A USA Today report found that Donald and his businesses have been involved in at least 3,500 legal actions in federal and state courts over the past 3 decades. In 2006, Melania gave birth to their son Barron. 4 months after the arrival of his new son, Donald allegedly had an affair with adult film actress Stormy Daniels. Later, Donald allegedly paid Daniels $130,000 in hush money. In 2011, 3 years into Obama's first term, Trump was a leading proponent of the birther conspiracy theory. It was a racist conspiracy theory that alleged America's first black president wasn't born in the United States, which, if true, would be unconstitutional.
I would like to have him show his birth certificate. And can I be honest with you? I hope he can. Because if he can't, and if he wasn't born in this country, which is a real possibility, I'm not saying it happened, I'm saying it's a real possibility, much greater than I thought 2 or 3 weeks ago, then he has pulled one of the great cons in the history of politics.
In response, Obama released his long-form birth certificate. On June 16, 2015, Donald took a famous ride down his gold-plated escalator at New York's Trump Tower. His rise to the presidency started with a descent, an apt metaphor for what the future would definitely hold. Fast forward to 2020, and much of what defines Trump, his hallmark, is veneer, be it the gold-plated decor, his net worth, or his orange spray tan. When you scratch under the surface, you find a decrepit mess hiding behind a thin shield. It's just unclear if the American public is ready to admit the truth hiding underneath Trump's wispy coif.
Hey, thanks for watching Who Is. Did you know we have a podcast now too? On Who Is, the podcast, I'll dive deep into the fascinating lives of the people who run things, whose decisions impact every aspect of our lives. How did they get where they are today? And knowing that, what might they do next? From politicians to the ultra-rich, to military contractors and monarchs and media moguls, I'll introduce you to the reporters and experts who know these real-life world molders best. Sharp-eyed observers and confidants who observe our subjects as they make the decisions that define our everyday lives. To see more, hit the link or search Who Is on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. And for more of the video series you know and love, be sure to check out the Snapchat versions and our series playlists on YouTube and Facebook.